So my client told me she hated half the exercises that I put in her program, and I left every single one of them in. Now, I don't enjoy this and I'm not good at this are two completely different answers, and only one of these is worth actually building a program around. If someone genuinely doesn't like an exercise because they're inhibited by, say, a previous injury, or they just really do not yet enjoy it, or maybe they're a beginner lifter and still haven't strengthened the tendons in their body enough to cope with the demand that the weight's putting on it, then fine, swap it out, leave it out of the program, that's perfectly fine. But if they hate that exercise because no one's properly taught them how to do it, then you're going to have to just leave it in. All that taking that exercise out of the program is going to do is just lock in that weakness, and it's going to ingrain it into the client's mind that they're not capable of doing this, that it's just not for them, when in reality that's just completely not true. So the footage today is actually from the final practical assessment I had for this personal training qualification. So you get paired with another student on the course to act as a client for your final assessment. You get to have a half an hour sit down practice consultation, so you find out about all of their goals, their short-term, medium-term, long-term goals, if they've had any previous personal training experience or any injuries, illnesses, anything that wouldn't inhibit them, what they enjoy, what they dislike, that sort of motivation and background and context that you need to effectively put together a program that will allow this individual to achieve their goals. So I got paired with Emma. She's another student, not a paying client, so there was that dynamic to take into account, but it was great practice for me. And at the end of the day, I wanted to, give her everything she needed to take forward that program into her own training, in case she wanted to use it as well. So it was useful, and I took it as seriously as I could to make sure she was getting the most benefit out of it, and that so was I, of course. So Emma has actually got a degree in sports and nutrition, and that plays a greater role than you would actually initially think. She already understands the theory behind the practice that we're going to be implementing. She's not someone that I needed to convince that a calorie deficit was what was needed to lose body fat, and a slight restructuring of her training is all she needed to start working on improving her body composition. She already understood all of that. All she needed was to see that applied to her, to have another form of accountability, someone to look at it from an outside perspective and then put all of these aspects into a finished product, I guess. So her goal, in her words, was to lose body fat, to gain lean muscle mass, and to just undergo an overall body recomposition. So there were three main decisions that shaped this whole program that I built for her. And the second is the one that I think most people actually miss out on. So the first one, she's completely free at the moment. She is currently traveling around Bali after the course ended for 1 month. She's got complete availability in terms of the amount of sessions that she could go to for her own training. She could hit the gym 4 to 5 times per week, and she wants to make that a priority, which is lovely for me. It just makes everything a lot easier. It's genuinely a realistic target instead of just, an aspirational one that a potential client might throw out, like, I might be able to go 4 or 5 times a week. No, for this one, we know it's a priority. We know she's available, so she has to get to the gym 4 to 5 times per week. And we're pretty confident that she'll be able to do that. And that single fact changed everything, really. It meant that I could go for an upper-lower split to ensure that we were hitting each individual muscle group at least twice a week. And that is exactly what you need in order to improve your body composition. If she told me she could only make 2 sessions a week, the program would look completely different. Availability comes before exercise selection every single time. Most people go ahead and they just build the perfect plan ahead of time, and then when they actually come to implement it into their daily life, they just can't squeeze their life around it. It doesn't add up. What you need to make sure is that the program that you make is catered, is designed for you, and it's built around being sustainable, something that you can continuously achieve every day. Make it as easy for yourself as possible, and don't set unrealistic expectations. Okay, and second is the pulling Now, Emma told me she hates pulling exercises, and that essentially, for me, comes across like I don't like training back, really. And the easy move there is to just take all of your pulling motions out of your program. Everyone's happy. The client doesn't have to do something they don't like, and I don't have to, force them to do something that they don't enjoy. In fact, if I do that, it potentially even makes me look accommodating to the client. But when we really dug into the heart of the issue during the consultation, it came out that it wasn't just the act of pulling that she didn't enjoy. It was a technique issue specifically. It was the grip. She doesn't feel confident in gripping the bar for a lot of these pulling exercises, and that made her more apprehensive going into any back exercise. So now that we know that, it stays in. Pulling exercise stay in, and we can actively coach on that. We can work on fixing her technique and getting her more confident in performing exercises that will inevitably improve her body composition once she starts hitting it effectively and consistently. Because if I take any pulling movements out of the program, I'm effectively just helping her reinforce the idea that she is incapable of doing this particular exercise or series of exercises, and that is not what we want to do. We want to enable our client to be and perform at their best and come to the understanding that they can push their body and that it is safe and that they will build strength around particular movements that they may not enjoy. Third is nutrition. So she provided me with a food diary, and it showed that her calorie intake was swinging massively from day to day. She was eating out quite a lot, and I think that is just, the normal thing to do when you're on holiday, particularly in Bali where it is so cheap and you can get such high quality food so easily. Telling her to cook all of her food from home in week 1 is just destined to fail. So we've split it. We're going to do some home cooked food and we're going to do some eating out, as long as healthy choices are still being made. She'll be using MyFitnessPal, and we're just going to make sure that those dramatic swings in calories from day to day are just mitigated. We're going to lower those differences and make it a little bit more consistent so we can get an average maintenance calories, and then we can build on that by introducing a deficit. The structure of the program is going to be 12 weeks, and it's going to be split into 2 blocks. Block 1 is going to be weeks 1 to 4. We're going to introduce a 300 calorie deficit, and we're going to make sure that she hits the gym at least 4 times a week. And for that, we're going to be aiming to lose about 0.5 kilograms a week. Then from weeks 5 to 12, we're going to shift into more hypertrophy style training in an effort to build some more lean muscle mass. The deficit has been chosen because it's small on purpose. It's still a calorie deficit, but she will maintain enough energy to continue banging out her sessions. And we're starting off with 12 reps per exercise, just so that she could start getting used to the techniques, find the right mind-muscle connection, and really ingrain those movement patterns and technique into her training, so she feels more comfortable when we then start increasing the weight a little bit later on. So one thing to take into account before we get into the training footage, that this is a program that I designed for Emma specifically based on our consultation. So a program I designed after finding out what her goals were, what her previous experience was, her availability, how many times she could get to the gym, what she liked, didn't like. All of those things were taken into account. That means it's not just a copy and paste. Obviously, take elements of it, take the theory that I've put into practice and use those to make a blueprint yourself. Just don't copy and paste it, because it won't be catered to you, your lifestyle or your goals. So please take that into consideration. So the assessment was at 4 p.m, so I still had a few more hours to kill, and this is how I spent my time just before. Alright, and that's everything, man. So I hope you enjoyed seeing what that final practical assessment was like, and if you've got any questions, DM me on Instagram. I'll have my Insta down in the comment section below or in the description. should I say. And yeah, only a couple more videos, this one and one more for Bali, and then back to my experiences in Melbourne and the current cut that I'm on. I'll see you guys next time.